Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul podcast, where I am your host, Michelle Bolden Hammond. And listen, this evening, everyone, you are in a treat. If you want to know all about some inspiration, let me tell you, she touched my soul a couple weeks ago. And a matter of fact, it's about connection. So it's about all about connection. We bumped into each other at the Sweatpants and Chill. Again, let's give us hands out to Latasha Briscoe for that. And you don't want to miss it next year. I'm gonna put the plug in because you really gonna enjoy yourself to this. But I have my special guest here, Miss Emma G. Emma, thank you so much for saying yes, and welcome here to the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul podcast.
So good to see you again, Michelle. That retreat. I'm angry at myself for not being there longer. I was only there for one day because I was booked the entire weekend here in DC, and I just feel like I missed out that event, that one glimmer glimpse, I should say, of what that weekend was about was just super mind-bogglingly beautiful. It was, yeah. So I'm really thrilled to have met you, and so like however many other beautiful, powerful women, and now we're here.
Yes, and it's all about connections. Didn't have an idea, didn't have a clue when you said you was musician. That just right at my radar there, because I'm all about the music. But
Yeah.
all the creativity is in, as you do, as I do. We both wear a lot of many of hats, but music
Mm.
is what our makeup is. And it took me till I've been doing it for years, but it took me till I get in my 50s to really pour and get to the root of it.
Of
So
course.
everything is in timing, always in timing, and it's a perfect timing. So that's going to lead us to our first question with you.
Mhm.
So I know music inspires me. So Emma, how has music inspired you?
Listen, I have been writing music. I've been being inspired by music since I was born. My mother was convinced I was going to be a drummer because I kicked her so hard and so rhythmically when I was inside. But for me, to give you a bit of background, I was born with a relatively rare neurological condition called hydrocephalus, which meant that I had my first brain surgery when I was 4 months old. And so music has been that thing that's helped me express myself and try to connect with that holistic part of myself. Really has helped me to give me hope and to give me strength, resilience, to find my voice, to communicate, to connect. It's been there for me my entire life and continues to do so. To this day, I'm still writing, still recording, still performing. And then, of course, I'm now in this beautiful position to help other people discover their power of their voice through their songwriting journeys. But music has just always been that lifeblood, and that um, the language of my soul and my inner being and my truth.
I could tell because I'm gonna go back to that night. You said music. We met in the hallway, and you was telling about
Mhm.
what you were going, how you were there, what you were there for. But to see you, it captivated me because, again, audience, I'm actually going to put her information up. This is actually right now what you see on the screen is where you can find some of her music. Some of all of her music, and I told her, I said, like, the 2 days after the conference, I had called her and said, listen, I've been looking at your music all day at work, just listening to it. It in your story, you can tell through your work that you're speaking from the heart and you're speaking from life experiences. And I think that makes a whole lot of difference when we are uplifting, because you uplift, just your songs is uplifting, and you told a story. So that's the key. You also are a creative storyteller when you're writing your music. Again, we're gonna play later on, a little bit later on, one of your videos from your song. So as you just said, you were an overcomer. So how does your storytelling and your songs relate as being an
That's
overcomer? You touched on it a little bit before, so
yeah,
tell
yeah.
the
It's
audience.
funny. It's funny. So it's funny that you put up my SoundCloud because I never use SoundCloud anymore. It's so funny. But I mean, how do I put this? For me, I keep telling this story, and I feel like it's the most cheesy story in the world. But when I was 5 years old, I wrote a list of what I wanted to be when I grew up. The first thing for me was I wanted to be a rock star, obviously. The second thing is I wanted to be a counselor, a teacher, a fashion designer, and a mum. And so the ability and the opportunity to be able to sort of cross correlate music and storytelling together, it's not just about telling stories with my music, it's about encouraging people to recognize the power of your voice, to recognize the power and strength of your story, to recognize that we live in a world that is constantly bombarding us with messages on who to be and how to act and how to show up. And you know we hear the saying of like beat dance to the beat of your own drum, or you could just write your own song, write your truth, sing your truth unapologetically. We, especially as women, we get told that we need to like fit into a box and you know have these labels attributed to us all the time that don't actually fit us. You know your story, you know your truth, you know your song, you know your story. So my by me stepping into my authentic self and telling the stories behind my songs as I'm singing them, my hope is that everybody will go away knowing that they too have a story to be sung. They too have a truth to be celebrated. They too have an authentic purpose that is beautiful and raw and scary and vulnerable and delicious and frightening and heartbreaking, but powerful and needed. And that's why I do what I do.
Love it. And you said it. You know your own story.
Hmm.
So, and some of us, we're walking in our purposes. Some of us, we might be in the path of our purposes. And some of us might be just at the beginning tip of trying to figure out what our purpose is. But whatever it is, you tell the story, and until you get, each piece of it, the beginning, the middle, or the end, it's all a journey, but it's very important that we tell our story. And one thing I
Yeah.
like, you use my favorite word, authentic self,
Is there
because
any other way to be?
it's that's that is the only way to be, the only way that we can be. And I go back what my grandmother used to say: people will trust you more and avenge you more if you tell them the truth. And
Hmm.
that has been a story and a journey that I had. She said they might get mad with you, but later on down that road, they're gonna appreciate when you telling them the truth. So
Well, I
look,
think the
audience.
madness comes from like our own a bit. Sorry, my cat's joining us for today. I think the madness often comes from the fear of them, like their own fear of themselves as well. I don't know if you're familiar with the author Marianne Williamson, but
Mhm.
she was the person who coined the phrase, and there's a whole verse about this, but it starts off with our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. Because who are we to shine? Who are we to be great? Who are we to be powerful? Well, actually, who are you not to be?
Right.
You know, and I think when we give ourselves permission to shine and be authentic, then those around us have the choice to either get mad or be like, wow, Michelle's being her badass authentic self. Let me be over here doing my, do my thing, and I'll be my authentic badass self too. That is my hope.
Right. So listen, audience, I want you to go grab some tea. I want you to just come back in because we have more with my guest, Miss Emma G here. So we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Stars are in light, the weaver, we would know.
All right, welcome back to Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul, where I'm your host, Michelle Bolden Hammond, and I am here with my lovely guest. Look, let me say, we can say singer, songwriter, coach, storyteller, and more. Admin.
I encompass it as I'm an edutainer.
It's an entertainer.
Edutainer.
Okay.
Like educational entertainer.
Okay. Yeah. Just like
musicpreneur. I don't know.
I know. Look, so this is the question that I always get, and I try to ask everyone else because I don't know about you. Just ask me. I know, like for me during this pandemic, my creativity like blew out of the roof.
Yo, facts.
It has blew out of the roof. So, as a creative vessel that you are, name one thing that you're working on now that has given you the best joy.
Can I give you some background before I answer that? Okay.
Most definitely.
So, yes, 1010%. The pandemic, I think, gave everybody the opportunity to really take a breath and recognize the things that actually serve us in life and the ways that we were living before that did not serve us in life. And for me, part of that journey has been going back, taking a step back and like recognizing the parts that I have been ignoring. So like if we have, I think there's 5 core, but 7 peripheral facets of self, including like our physical, spiritual, emotional, social, and mental, financial, and I think the last one's like career, the career facet of self. For me, the pandemic gave me the opportunity to really focus on my physical health, my mental health, and my spiritual health. Mm-hmm. And obviously, those are all core aspects of our creative health. So my songwriting, my stepping into my purpose, my creativity has just gone. I can't even tell you these. Like I wrote 2 books. I created 2 podcasts that were running 3 times a week. I, recorded an album that I wrote in 30 days and then filmed a documentary from it. Now that I've done all of those crazy things, I am working on a stage production called Soundtrack in Progress. It is a TEDx meets rock opera style showcase of 25 songs that I wrote from the age of 4 up until present day, broken down into 2 acts that I've also recorded and will be releasing as albums next year. But the songs and the presentation and the showcase is really talking about how songwriting and music have been instrumental. That was a pun. Okay. um, in facilitating my mental, emotional, spiritual, and social health.
Wow.
Because we were so caught up in, I think, as people, as Westerners, particularly in the United States, we're so caught up in the hustle and the grind that we forget who Emma is.
Mm.
And songwriting is like the closest relationship that I have managed to manifest with the force, with the universe, with God, whatever name you want to attribute to the Almighty. Songwriting is that vessel of my truth.
Wow. It's just I hear what you're saying about that. It is and it's quick that season, because as for me, that's what I did. And right now, I just did a book last weekend. I'm actually going to put it up later. But
Go ahead now. That's awesome.
2 weekends ago, I just shut down and just did a whole book in a weekend time. And that's when you're really working on your purpose, because anything that he gives us, he strictly designs it. He gives you the thoughts. He strictly designs it. You might have a little struggle with it, but those things that you're really struggling is, I always ask people to go back to the beginning of it. Is that really what you should be doing?
Right.
Because to write a book, like you said, you did a whole album. That's me. In 11 months, I did one. It's that creativity. It's that hype, because you're walking in your purpose.
Yes, ma'am. Say it louder for the people in the back.
That's it. That's it. So, not only in your music, but education. Can you tell the audience, and because you have a big campaign with youth empowerment, and drastically our youth need more positivity, and just share with the audience, what you're doing with the youth, because you're doing some amazing things with the youth.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been teaching for 17 years now. I got my teaching qualification back in New Zealand, and that's key because my teaching approach is not the typical Western teaching approach. I draw on a lot of key Indigenous to New Zealand principles, Māori teaching principles, that really are focused on student-driven learning and creating an atmosphere that young people in particular, but students in general, don't feel like there's a power imbalance, so that they feel guided and supported in their learning process, as opposed to the regurgitate information type approach that I think a lot of people tend to think of when they think of education. So history of teaching that moved and developed into youth empowerment coaching. I was a youth empowerment coordinator for the YMCA for a few years back in New Zealand, where I won awards and was doing some really important work focused again on culture and identity, particularly through the Indigenous lens. And now, as I, am in my 30s and I'm, navigating what my purpose is, not just as a musician, but as a human being, and somebody who wrote a list as a 5-year-old saying I wanted to be a teacher, a counselor, a rock star, and a mom. I'm now utilizing my teaching qualifications, my youth work background, and my music background to do youth empowerment through songwriting coaching, helping guide, coach, mentor. I consider myself like the Yoda of the relationship for my Luke Skywalker rock star teenage youth clients, so that they can, feel supported as they step into their power of their voices, as they find the words, the verbiage, and melodies and music to express themselves and their pain points, whether that's anxiety, whether that's depression, whether that's stress, overwhelm. I'm currently working with a middle school in Montgomery County here, that a lot of the students just have really unresolved trauma from their parents fleeing the country, or, gang-related violence, things that they don't necessarily have the confidence to discuss, but when it's through the lens of songwriting, they can start to give themselves permission to find the words, to find the ways to express themselves that don't feel scary, intimidating, or shaming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a really it's beautiful work. It's hard work because life is hard, but it's important work because, especially considering these young people have been through 2.5 years at least of hormones raging, social construct being, created on social media, like severe lack of connection
Yes.
with peers and with families. And, there's just so much going on for them, in addition to raging hormones and, all the other crazy things that happen to teenagers. So it's just, I really believe that, if this is the comfort zone of a human being, if this is the comfort zone of society, if this is the comfort zone of where the education system is fostering our young people, we really need to take a step outside of that comfort zone to facilitate everybody back to mental wellness.
You have said it. And you speaking of that mental wellness, that is like my area, a specialty. When you saying it's counseling and, changing the mindset, because they are dealing with a lot of stuff. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
stressors and pressures at home. But, as we people who feelers as ourselves, how does the next question lead to that with the stress? Because you have compassion for what you do. When you're passionate about what you do, and it is hard sometimes to debrief. So, what you see, because sometimes we giving it all out.
Filling our cup is so important. And I
Yeah.
tell you, so I'm really lucky, blessed, thankful, grateful for 2020 in a lot of ways. Because 2020, even though it was a horrible year politically, horrible year socially, especially across the country when it came to, the murder of George Floyd and the subsequent Black Lives Matter marches, and living in Washington, D.C., obviously, like, I was here trying to do my part as much as possible, especially as somebody who wasn't born and raised in this country. But, that was my year of, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no, right? And so the last couple of years, I've really taken the time to figure out, okay, so what are the hell yeses in my life? How do I refill my cup, especially when I'm giving so much? And I'm really, again, grateful for the opportunities to take a step back and breathe, look at my mental health, look at my physical health, my spiritual health, my connection to source, and taking the time to really brainstorm how I want to show up for myself. So that is manifested as more songwriting for myself, exercise. I go for a walk every day, every morning. I live with my boyfriend, and he is an incredible soundboard most of the time when it comes to, me being able to get things off
That's
my
right.
chest.
Right.
He also runs a Krav Maga school, so being able to go and punch things and kick things with him is also a huge stress relief. I lift weights, I run, I meditate, digging your toes in nature, um,
Right.
is,
Right.
just things that bring
Mhm.
you joy. And that's going to look different for everybody, but I think joy is something we don't focus on enough, you know?
Right.
And I think what's her name? I'm reading a book at the moment, um, like Walking in My Joy in These Streets, I think is the title of the book. It's by an actress um, here in the States. And it just that's it. It's like what brings you joy. For some people, that's baking. That's not my thing, but for some people, baking is joyful. Okay. For some people, it's, I don't know, perfecting the art of the handstand. That is not my thing at all either. But nonetheless, it's finding what works for you and really giving yourself permission and time to do it.
That's right. It's very important that you do. And that leads us to, as you were talking about what we see, as you can look at the news. And I had did a little study with a group maybe about a month ago. That is 90% of the news that we see is negativity, and only 10% is positive.
Mhm.
So you have a song that's called Born into Crisis, because anybody that might be having a baby today be like, it's a joy, like you just said, it's joyful, but if you look around, Born into Crisis. Can you explain the analogy of the song? And it's a beautiful song. So again, I need you to go and follow her and listen at this music. We're
Well, thank
actually
you.
later on, we're gonna see a video. And matter of fact, Emma, you know what I'm gonna do for the rest of this month? I'm gonna actually play your song.
Okay.
I'm gonna play your song on the show
I would
once.
love that.
I will do that for the next couple to the end of the month. For the next couple weeks, yet that video will be shown
I
throughout my
love
voice.
that. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so my album Born in Crisis was written over 30 days. I started at the end of January 2021 and I finished at the beginning of March 2021. And over those 30 days, I wrote a song every day, which then culminated into I took 13 of those songs and recorded them to be this album. And the reason why I called it Born in Crisis is because I'm way too cheesy and poetic, I think. So I was born in crisis. My mother was in labor for 30 hours. I spent the first few weeks of my life in hospital and then first few months in hospital because I had my first brain surgery when I was 4 months old. Crisis. By the time I was 11, I'd had 10 brain surgeries and 24 surgeries in total. Crisis. Being a female of color in the country that I grew up in, I was, the brown sheep, the black sheep of my peer group. That wasn't a crisis, but some of the things that happened as a result of crisis. However, I'm a huge believer in taking ownership. And I learned in 2020, no, was it 2020? Either 2020 or 2021, in Mandarin, I believe it's Mandarin, in one of the Chinese languages, the word crisis is represented by two characters when written down. One of those characters is a character that represents danger. The other character is a character that represents opportunity. And I thought, hell yes, that is perfect. Because to your point, the pandemic gave you the opportunity to be creative again, to really lean into a part of yourself that you've been neglecting for a long time. It gave you an opportunity to be you. And I think that it's really important for us to kind of take the time to look at that for ourselves. For everything that happens to us, okay, what does it give to us? What opportunities lie here?
You said it. You just said a whole look. See, she even snuck in her teaching skill.
They call me energy for a reason.
Look, she did that right smooth. You see that audience? She did that right smooth. She brought in that teaching mode just that quick. That was good. A good story behind that though.
Thank you.
Danger, opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That danger and opportunity. So, sometimes that danger means an opportunity because it could be a sign that you need to go somewhere else and take your focus off where you thought you were supposed to be. That might not was where you needed to be. So danger and opportunity. So I mean, Emma, there's so much more to you, and I can't wait to see you in person again.
Yes, ma'am.
So you just mentioned a couple of things that you're working on, but is there anything that's upcoming this weekend? I know there's more music because you just heard her audience. You heard she said she did a song every day. Now that is that's creative. That's a whole big go round right there. But tell us what's next. Just tell us what is next.
So the next big thing on my radar is I am releasing the showcase for Soundtrack in Progress this Friday at Fat Pete's Barbecue on Connecticut Avenue Northwest here in Washington D.C. It's it'll be a 2 45-minute set showcase taking audiences through the songs I've written from the age of 4 up until present day, and how each song has helped me either with my mental health, physical health, spiritual health, or all of the above. And then, of course, for those that really enjoy the show, I will be releasing the first single of the album next year. In fact, three singles leading up to their album release in over summer next year. And of course, if anybody wants to join me and access those songs early and then help me in my mission when it comes to empowering people and spreading love and all the good stuff, they can also join me on Patreon to get, insider access. So, yeah.
And hint, Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul will be ready for it.
Yes, ma'am.
So
here we go.
So you gotta watch me to get the inside tip. See,
this is it. This is it. This is it.
This is the place to be to get the inside tip. To get the inside tip. Well, Emma, I just want to say I always tell my guests, when you tell me yes, the yes is definitely not to me per se, but it's to God, because He loves it, and because we both all about inspiration, and that's what people need to do. We need to connect like that, and I am so glad that you connected with me on the fact with this, because this here is something I'm all about inspiration, because that's what this is. You see what mine say, guru of inspiration. It's only positive stuff that's gonna be here. So right at the screen of the show, these is where you're gonna be able to get the scoop. You're gonna get the scoop.
Yeah. Well, that's to your point. Like, if 90% of the news is negative and only 10% is positive, it's up to us to reshape what that algorithm looks like.
Yes.
We talk about the algorithms of social media all the time. You can control that by turning it off. Like, feed your soul the stuff that you want to feed it.
Exactly.
It's up to us. Everything is just a decision away.
It's just a decision away. That's right. So then that's what this is what this outlet for, is to get that positive stuff rolling through here.
Listen, Michelle, you are definitely exemplary of that. Let me tell you.
So, Emma, I I feel like we could just keep talking forever, but again, I'm leaning for everyone's time. But just like we talk about inspiration, I want you to give the listeners, and for those who catch this replay or however you do this, I want you to take and reach deep down in your soul for this word of inspiration that she's going to give you. And like again, I said, you need to follow her music because the music is something that will uplift your soul. I'm telling you, I got it all over my stuff at work because you need those rays. You got to set your room and your atmosphere for the day. But Emma, leave the audience with just one word of inspiration, something just to give them to about the positivity.
Just one.
Well, nah, you can give a whole phrase.
I have two.
Yeah.
The first one is remember, and you can repeat this after me if you want to, Michelle.
Okay.
I am loved.
I am loved.
I am love.
I am love.
And everything I could possibly need lives within me.
And everything that possibly needs is within me. And you know what? She didn't even know this, but you know what you just did? And I'm going to tell you, that is my mantra for my show, ending of my show.
Shut the front door. We are totally alike. That's hilarious. Okay. So my second word of inspiration is remembering that at the end of the day, no matter what labels the world's trying to give you, no matter what pressure or box you're being forced into, you are the writer of your own song. Do not let the world write your song for you. You have the pen.
See, she didn't even know this, but I end my show every week to tell someone every week. So listen, audience, she almost gave the ending, but
it's foreshadowing.
Emma, I appreciate you for coming on. I really, really do. But audience, until next week, and trust me, you will see her video. So you're gonna have to stay tuned and watch it and catch it because and it's very good for Thanksgiving time too, I think. The song is very good for that too as well. So yeah, we're gonna be having this on for matter of fact, I might do it for a whole month. There we go. We're gonna do it for a whole month. There we go.
Yeah,
there we go.
You're awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
We're gonna do that for a whole month. Yeah, we're gonna do it for a whole month. So, audience, it's been a pleasure here. And again, Emma, thank you so much for coming on tonight and saying yes. And audience, until next week, if you have not been told that you are loved, just know that you are loved here at the Upfront Mind, Body, and Soul. Until next week, be blessed. I'm your host, Michelle Bolden Hammond.